yeah, today I'm bringing you another art hack video. It's been several months since the previous one. I like to do them and space them out every few months. And people really like it when I make these, and I love making them because every time I do, I get so many comments from people giving me new hacks and ideas to try out. So today are some of my favourite hacks so far. So this first hack is involving a magic eraser or magic cleaning eraser, magic sponge. They go by a whole bunch of different names if you get like knockoff versions. The official one is by Mr. Clean, but they just look like this. They're white, spongy, and you fill them with water and they kind of remove things from walls. Like if children like get pen on the wall, it is magic. You might recognise this hack if you watched my Pinterest testing hack out video. That was not the title of the video. But I found this particular hack online and I didn't think it was going to work. But basically, if you're doing a watercolour painting and you mess up, you can actually wet a little bit of this sponge and it will remove the watercolour paint. It's great because I can't tell you how many times I have destroyed watercolour paintings by getting a bit too excited with the water and it just making a mess everywhere. This will just neaten up whatever mistakes you make, get rid of mistakes. The only thing I will say is it kind of works slightly like fine sandpaper. I mean, it's not like gonna hurt you, but just don't go too excitable over the paper because it might end up tearing it. But for very small minor mistakes, this is fantastic and I can't recommend them high enough. So this next hack is a lifesaver for me because no matter what I seem to do, my paper always warps if I paint on it. This is why a lot of artists tend to tape down the edges of the paper they're working on, but I've still found that my paper likes to warp on me a little bit even if I do that. So a quick hack for this is to get some parchment paper like wax paper from the kitchen or tracing paper if you have it, stick it down on a flat surface and then you're going to want to flip your painting over and get a wet sponge or a wet cloth, a wet flannel, a wet washcloth, and then just wipe down the entire back of the paper. Once you've done this, you're going to want to completely cover up the painting with some flat, heavy objects, as much as you can do, and just leave it like that for several hours. And once the painting has been kept flattened for that amount of time, the water on the back will have dried, soaked up, and the paper will be flat. I can't tell you how many times I've done this. It's a lifesaver for me, and it always works perfectly. Baby oil is great. Not for babies, it smells of babies, but if you can get past that, this is great for your pencil drawings. Notice that whenever you use coloured pencils, there's always some of the white paper showing through. It never fully gets rid of the grain of the paper, you still got that poking through. A lot of artists tend to use things like solvent to help smooth out the lines, but instead of that, you can use baby oil. If you just put a little bit of this on the end of your paintbrush and you smooth it over the coloured pencil drawings, it really does smooth it out really well, and it's a cheaper alternative to getting solvent. So I recently went travelling, brought all of my special art supplies in this pencil case. I didn't put it in my hand luggage on the way there, and that wasn't the best idea because if you think about it, all your lovely pointy, sharp, nice pencils hit the sides and then they break and you are up the poo when that happens. For example, I have this lovely expensive mechanical pencil and the lead is very thick and very not cheap. A solution to this would just be to push the lead straight back in, but some art supplies you can't really do that with. So a great solution to this is to grab a pencil. This is not a pencil. A toothbrush holder. You can stick all of your most precious art supplies in here, especially paintbrushes that are expensive and you don't want ruined during travel that are going to get bent. You don't want to ruin your lovely sharpened pencils. Stick it into a toothbrush holder and it is going to protect it and it's not going to be bumping against the side of things because it's got a hard, like, you know, it's an hard outer case and it's just a great solution. I wish I had thought of this sooner when I was on holiday. So yeah, they're cheap, you know, your supplies aren't, so. This next one may be apparent to some, but it wasn't to me. I actually had no idea that this is what you could use this for. Mod Podge. I just presumed it was for like finishing puzzles and gluing paper together. But it's actually a sealer. You can actually use this over your acrylic paintings. You can brush it on and it will seal them up. So no need for expensive sealers or any kind of weird finishes. You can just use some Mod Podge and it will seal your painting for you. So there we go. If you didn't know that, like I didn't, great. If you're telling me I'm stupid because I should have known that already, go away. I was recommended repeatedly by people in my audience on my last two videos an ice cube tray for a palette. There are 16 little compartments in this, and I don't tend to use that amount of colorage. What is also great about this is you can get ice cube trays that have lids on them so you can store the paint so it doesn't dry out. I was unable to get a lidded ice cube tray, but that didn't stop me, because instead of using a lid, I'm going to be using some Glad wrap. What's it called? Glad Magic Wrap? Glad Cling Wrap? I don't remember. The Glad Press and Seal Wrap, which is kind of like the magic eraser. It's pretty magic. It sticks to the edges of whatever you're putting it on, and it will never sink into the bowl or the ice cube tray. So keep that in mind. It'll stick to the edges, not into your paint, and voila. I've had a lot of people tell me that palettes in their country are not all that cheap, so if you can't get hold of a cheap ice cube tray, just use like a paper plate. Those are incredibly inexpensive. You can use virtually anything as a palette. Speaking of palettes, something you can use as a decent palette is magazine paper. Just grab a useless magazine like this. Did everyone hear that? That was the sound of supernatural fangirls screaming in unison at me when I just said that. I don't buy magazines, okay? I hate reality TV and all that crap. So, sorry if you like reality TV, I should have thought before I said that. I just don't like, I don't. So, another thing you can use instead of a magazine, this is very precious, don't worry. Oh, I've bent it. But yeah, you don't even really need a magazine. You can just use those kind of flyers or brochures that stores tend to send you in the post. Why magazines are so great is because the glossiness of the paper will not absorb the paint you're sticking on it. So all you need to do is just rip out a bit of glossy paper, stick your paint on it. When you're done, flip it over and you can reuse it. It's great, cheap, effective, and don't use your supernatural magazine. This next hack is more of a tip than a hack, but you know, if you're a new artist especially, you're probably not going to know this. Use a kneadable eraser instead of a regular eraser. The reason for this is this actually picks up the lead from the paper instead of smearing it around like a regular eraser, and you can literally just bend it in any way, shape or form. This is my second kneadable eraser because my younger brother likes to shape animals into them and then they end up falling on the floor and getting hair on them. So don't let your little brother do that. But you know, regardless, these are great. Get one. This next one is a way to buy your art supplies more cost effectively. Now, art supplies, they're not cheap. They are not cheap. But a more effective way to buy them is to buy them in bulk. And most art supplies don't come in bulk. So head over to eBay. I used to do this. I used to love VC Andrew books, but buying them individually, new, was crazy expensive. So what I used to do was search VC Andrew book lots. They're basically like bulk sets of books people were selling on. And I used to get so many books, like $20, I'd get like 50 books. It was great. But you can do this for art supplies as well, especially Copic markers. You'll find there's a lot of people on there that have collected them over time and then realise, oh my gosh, I need some money back because I've spent too much money. And the supplies are barely used, if that. So if you just go to eBay, search Copic marker lot, you'll find that a lot of people are selling these huge bulk sets of things. And yeah, it's just a great way of buying cheap art supplies secondhand that are often not even really used. Just make sure you check their reviews and they're not a new seller because you don't want to be scammed. This next hack is fantastic if you've ruined multiple paintbrushes like I have in the past. But all is not lost, there is actually a way to solve this issue. Firstly, make sure your paintbrush has been removed from the water and use a paper towel to get rid of most of the moisture. Then you're going to want to grab your hair gel, put a tiny little bit on your fingers and then reshape the paintbrush and then lie it flat. Leave it like this for a few hours and fingers crossed, you've just managed to fix your paintbrush. This won't work every time, but a good portion of the time, this will fix your paintbrushes. You are welcome. Okay, this next hack is just something that I just realised was a great hack. I've been doing it for so long that I didn't really realise that it was just some great advice for people. So when you're painting and you're washing your paintbrushes out with water and then they're soaking wet and then you need to wipe them on something to get rid of the water, a lot of the time people use like paper towels and things. But me personally, I went into the dollar store a few months back and bought a microfiber towel. Microfiber is what I use on my hair. My hair is naturally very wavy. It's kind of curly underneath back here. And regular towels make my hair very frizzy, and that's why I use microfiber towels. Anyway, beside the point, microfiber soaks up moisture and water far better than a regular towel does. That's why I like to use microfiber towels on my paintbrushes, because it removes the water much better than a regular towel or paper towel will. So yeah, little hack for you. It's like a kitchen towel that you wipe your hands on, but as you can see, I've got paint on mine. So yeah, works great. This next one was once again found on my Pinterest hack video where I was testing out sort of hacks I found on there. And this worked so well. If you use white distilled vinegar, or just like white vinegar in general, you can soak your paintbrushes in there if they're covered in dried paint. And after a few hours, take them out and the paint on the paintbrushes will be super bendy and you're able to wash off the paint. I've not tried this with oil paint, but I wouldn't imagine it would be any different, to be honest. I've just tried this with acrylic paints and it works perfectly, so I highly recommend that. So that's it for today. That's all the hacks I have for you. If you have any hacks I've never mentioned before, I would love to hear them, and maybe I'll feature them in another video in a few months' time. Also, update, I have a second channel now. I'm going to be posting videos on there at some point, just non-art related stuff. So if you want to follow me on there, links in the description. And I just love reading all your comments. You're all so lovely. So yes, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves and I will see you in the next video.